I'm one of those people that gets cold but never touches the thermostat. My wife touches it and she uses it and schedules programs, and I never touch it. I just dwell in the coldness. This isn't my house. That would have children loudly making noise. But in this house, which is not mine, I'm cold, very cold. I just haven't done anything about it. I've kind of just sat in here being cold. But so I can finish for the day and get my last video done, I'm going to talk about the crew. The crew for games I got. What is it? Timestamp. What is it? The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game, which, if you are familiar with trick-taking games, when this came out, it was very novel. That was a unique approach to the genre. I am somebody who grew up playing cards a lot with family and friends, and I love playing spades, but it is a very difficult game to play because you have to have 4 people, exactly 4 people, no more, no less, and you play on 2 teams of 2, so you play against each other. So the concept of a cooperative trick-taking game where everybody is trying to take tricks specifically, but you're working together, was very interesting. And Thomas Singh is the designer of this and it's published by Cosmos. And also there's a new version out called Deep Sea Mission, The Crew Deep Sea Mission. I think that's the name of it. And that's the second one that's got even more content and new mechanics and stuff like that. And I think people have said, I think I've heard people say that they appreciate what that does even more than this. Not that this doesn't do things well, it's just even better than this was. This is a very simple to approach small box game that gets increasingly complex the further you go through the missions. I've only made it through like 18 missions, I think. And it gets crazier and crazier because what happens is it's a trick-taking game where each mission gives a different restriction. For example, on a mission, you might need somebody to take the green 9, the 5 blue, and the yellow 7. And you might need, out of however many players you have, 3 players need to win those specific cards. And the players that take those tokens at the beginning of the game, at the beginning of the round, beginning of the mission, they're the ones who have to win that. If anybody else wins those cards, the mission fails. And so that sounds, oh, okay, that's interesting. People have to win different cards. But that's just the beginning of the complexity. After that, it digs down even deeper and goes, okay, well, they need to get these 3 cards, and now they have to get it in this order. You have to win that before you win that, before you win that. And so that adds a new layer. And then sometimes it's, okay, now typically you can choose to communicate about one of your cards and say whether it's the highest, the lowest, or the only of that color that you have. But some missions say, okay, you can't communicate this round, which means you have to do it all blindly. And then another mission might say, okay, this person has to win every single trick in the game, or this person can't win any tricks in the game, which is difficult if they have rocket cards, which are the trump cards of this game. And so every mission seems to add a little bit of a twist on the formula to where it gets increasingly complex, but it's also continually engaging. And it's also the kind of game where it plays fast. So when you inevitably lose a mission, when you inevitably fail, it won't bother you as much because you can quickly just shuffle up the cards, re-deal them out, and try again. And the idea that there are 50 missions give this game a sense of a campaign, a sense of progression. And you can really start to dial in, especially if you're playing with the same group going through multiple missions. You can really start to dial in your kind of unspoken communication or strategy in how you play. So that's what it is. Timestamp. Why I have it. I bought it because I think, was this a 2020 publication? That was loud. Did this come out in 2020? Yeah, this came out in 2020. And at the end of 2020, this was on a lot of people's lists of one of the best games of 2020. So at the beginning of 2021, I bought it and I wanted to try it out. So I bought it at the beginning of last year and I have played it physically and digitally numerous times now. I have played it physically at my house. I've taken it and traveled with it because it's such a small box. So I've traveled with it and played it with people. I've also played it online on Board Game Arena a ton because it's free on there and it's a pretty good system, a pretty good adaptation of the physical game. So I've played it digitally and physically quite a bit, and I have had it since the beginning of 2021. That was kind of when did I get it and why I have it at the same time. And I'm going to call that a combo deal. You guys just got a combo. 1-2 punch. That was a redundant timestamp because it was unneeded, but I'll do another one for the next one. What do I like about it? I like the fact that it takes a genre that I enjoy very much, and I have fond memories of growing up playing trick-taking games like Spades, and it creates, or it overlays a lot of design savvy to what is typically a simple approach. You just need to play a certain card to either win or lose that trick, depending on whether you want to win or lose that trick. And I think that is such a satisfying way. I really appreciate simple designs that create depth and a lot of player satisfaction. It's why I think Air, Land, and Sea is very impressive. It's why I think Land versus Sea is very impressive. It's why I think The Crew is such a good little card game. And yeah, I just think that is a really impressive job. I think Thomas Singh did a fantastic process in creating a sense of progression with the campaign, with the 50 missions that you go on. And it makes me want to complete it. I have not yet completed it, but it makes me want to. And I think that this also plays very differently at certain player counts. If you get a lot of players and you each need very specific cards, it makes it very difficult to guarantee that that person can get that card. But alternatively, if you only have a couple players, once you get to a certain point, you have to take multiple tasks. And so then you'll have players forced to take multiple tasks, which might make each task in itself more difficult. If they have to get the blue 5 and the 3/5, and they only have 2 blue cards to begin with, it's going to make it difficult to combine and collaborate with your person, especially with how much limited communication there is in the game. So I think it's just very well made. I think it's a very well designed game. I like it a lot. And I think it's very accessible because it's small, it can travel, and because until you get a little bit further into the missions, they ramp up in difficulty. So it's a pretty accessible beginning. Timestamp. Will it leave? Probably not, or maybe so. I don't know. It just depends. I like it a lot, but once I get through the 50 missions, I may feel less of a compulsion to keep it, and I might feel more of an interest in getting the Deep Sea Adventure or Deep Sea Mission, the second one that just came out, because that'll have new stuff, and it will feel novel and fresh, and it won't feel like I'm going back through the same missions. Because I feel like the only downside to this game is unless you're playing with the same group or you're playing consistently over a long period of time, you can kind of get to the point where you play through the first 15 missions multiple times over because you start at the beginning with a different group. And so I feel like if you start at later missions intentionally with people who know how to play, you're more likely to be pleased with not getting tired of it. And so I think that's probably how to avoid feeling like it gets stale because you're going over the same missions again and again. But I like a lot about it, and I'm not sure if it will leave, at least until I've completed all 50 missions. And also it's a small box game, so it doesn't really take up a lot of room, and it doesn't bother me that it's in my collection if I'm not playing it for a while. It really is cold in here. Timestamp. Would you like it? I think a lot of people would like this game, but there is a certain population of gamers who would not enjoy it, and that is, number one, people who don't like trick-taking games, because it takes a different mindset. It's a little weird. You have to plot out the logistics of what are the odds that they're going to have the exact number that's going to ruin my plan or the exact number that's going to make my plan work. And also the cooperative element of it where you're you have to refrain from communicating. You can't table talk, and you only have one method of communicating what cards you have, and only one card per mission. And of those cards, or of those missions, sometimes you're not even allowed to communicate. All of those restrictions can make it a frustrating experience for people who want to be able to say, oh, I have this, let's do this. I have this, let's do this. It kind of takes away the point of this game, but if you don't like those limitations and those restrictions as a player, then you will probably find this frustrating. And but otherwise, I think it's a very fun game. It's not a hard overload in terms of rules that you have to understand, but the way that they layer the design makes it to where those small amount of rules can create a complex or deep experience as a player. So if you like that kind of stuff, you would like this. If you don't like trick-taking games and you're frustrated by cooperative experiences, especially those that limit communication, and if you don't like losing, because you can lose these missions frequently, then this may be something that will frustrate you. Rating. Thumbnail. Not thumbnail. I keep on mixing up thumbnail and timestamp. I got to do it again. I got to do a do-over. Timestamp. I think this is an 8 out of 10 for me, which is really solid for a card game like this. I'm legitimately, I need to warm up at some point. I need to go sit by a fire. I need to start a fire. There's not any logs over there though, and it doesn't look like it's got any gas capabilities at all in that fire. My home has a gas fire, and I think I'm going to use that when I get home. So, yeah, I think it's an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid game, and I'm curious how the next game iterates on it, how it changes it, how it fixes things or improves things, or just makes it a fresh experience if you have fully gone through this and are like, I want something different but the same. So I think it's an 8 out of 10. It could go up, it could go down. Just depends on how much maybe I like the next one or how fulfilled I feel by the experience of going through the later missions in this game, which I haven't touched yet. So yeah, 8 out of 10, pretty solid score. Yeah. Timestamp. Thumbnail. The Crew. Maybe I should do I'm floating in space There we go. That was perfect. And by perfect, I mean it works. It's definitely not perfect. But, okay. That's it. I think, that's 3 for the day. That's good for now. That'll set me up for a couple days. That'll set me up for a couple days. See ya.